We will start by giving you a short presentation that starts by telling you a little bit about who Science for Africa Foundation is. And then after that, I'll hand over to my colleague, Doris, who will take you through the call, what it had, what it did not have, and then including some frequently asked questions. And then eventually, hopefully, after just about 15 to 20 minutes, we open it up to hear from you. So we do encourage you to put as many questions as possible in your Q&A button that is either at the top or the bottom of your screen, depending on your own configuration. So please go on, put your questions. But at the same time, there will be an opportunity of asking questions live if we come to that particular point. So let's proceed, and thanks for joining. I'd also like to say that this particular call, it's being run by Science for Africa Foundation in collaboration with Foundation S, the arm of Sanofi pharmaceutical company, and also the Wellcome Trust. So a little bit more about Science for Africa Foundation. Okay, so for those of you who are not too familiar with us, we do hope that you are familiar with us. The Science for Africa Foundation is a Pan-African non-profit public charitable organization. We are based here in Nairobi, Kenya. That's where our headquarters is, in a place called Chiromo, for those of you who know Nairobi. And this particular organization was created to support, strengthen, and promote science and innovation in the African continent, for the simple reason that we believe that science and innovation will be central to delivering sustainable development for our continent. And that's part of the reason that we are putting together this particular call for proposals. And we would like to support you as scientists on the continent, working on the continent, to catalyze and strengthen Africa's science and innovation ecosystems, in this case to respond to climate change and the health nexus or challenge. So as a group, we do have some focus areas, and we work all the way from discovery and basic sciences to implementation and policy sciences. For us, we think that the continent is lagging in some early stage contributions, but at the same time, there's an opportunity for us to do a little bit more work in translational sciences, even though at the moment we believe that there's quite a bit we can do around implementation sciences and also policy sciences. Now, Science for Africa Foundation is in 3 areas: in health, climate and environment, and agriculture. And we were quite happy in COP28 last year in December to actually make this particular announcement for this call, that we are happy that you've joined us. So the organization does quite a bit of convening, which means that we do listen to scientists within and without the continent about what's important to actually do and achieve. And indeed, whatever it is that you saw, or you'll be hearing a little bit after this from my colleague Doris, is really what we had from the experts, various discussions around climate and health, and what eventually was agreed upon that we need to focus for the core. Otherwise, we do program design, and then after that do fundraising, and eventually some little bit of oversight around capacity building for delivery for some of the innovations that we will be funding. I encourage you to have a look at our website. There are other calls that are open that could be important for you to participate in, depending, of course, on your area of science. So let me hand over to my colleague Doris to take you through the rest of the slides, and then, of course, if there will be any questions, we'll come back to them. So thanks again for attending. Over to you, Doris.
Thank you, Moses. Hello, everyone. My name is Doris Wangari. I'm a Senior Program Officer with Science for Africa, and we're quite excited to host this webinar for applicants. As Moses has informed you, this is a call that is focusing on accelerating and catalyzing solutions for climate change impact on health and gender. So as a bit of background, we launched this call on 3rd of December during the COP28 conference. And it has been open throughout the holiday season and will be coming to a close on the 31st of January at 5 p.m. Kenyan time, which is 1700 hours East African time. I would add that you note that time because it's important that we stick to this time frame. In terms of this call, it was a joint call between partners within the Grand Challenges family, and for Grand Challenges Africa, which is hosted under the Science for Africa Foundation, we were part of this initiative. So there are other countries that have also launched the similar call. We have Ethiopia, we have Rwanda, we have Brazil, and we have Grand Challenges India. So we have included a link where you're able to see all these partner requests for proposals that they launched and see the various areas of focus that each of them have. As Moses has informed, for us at Grand Challenges Africa, we received support for this call from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation S, Rockefeller Foundation, as well as some funding from the Pastoral Network. In terms of the geographical scope for this application, for us as Grand Challenges Africa, we'll be keen to support African researchers that are located within the continent. However, we're cognizant, like I've mentioned, that the African researchers also from Ethiopia and Rwanda, and we would want to urge them that you apply from the specific country Grand Challenges portal for this call. Similarly to the Brazilian and Indian, we would ask that you apply within the Grand Challenges Brazil and India portal. If you're an eligible Pastoral Network site in Africa, we would urge that if you're based within Grand Challenges Africa network, you can apply through the Brazil portal. And if you're eligible from other pastoral sites not located within Africa and Brazil, you can apply through the Grand Challenges Senegal portal for this. Again, a link is included for your reference. So when we look at the area of climate change, we find that there's a lot of threat that is coming in for the development that has already been done, especially when it's around health and gender. And this now is where we felt we wanted to put in our effort in supporting the health and well-being and livelihoods of especially for women who are quite impacted by this. And we note that the impact is not evenly distributed. Therefore, we feel that it is crucial to understand how the emerging problems in health as well as in agriculture affect the continent as well as globally. Therefore, we look at investment in creative solutions to help these vulnerable populations adapt and build their resilience to the existing and future climate-related challenges. So through this call, we are focusing on transdisciplinary approaches that would enable a better adaptation to mitigate as well as reverse the disastrous effects of climate change in areas of health, gender, as well as agriculture. However, like I mentioned, this is a joint call that was made for Grand Challenges Africa. We'll be focusing on two areas of focus. However, within the joint request for proposals, there are 5 areas of focus that were launched. So for Grand Challenges Africa, we'll be looking at health outcomes, as well as knowledge management and data integration. Some of the other partners are launching calls around nutrition, around adaptation strategies for agriculture and income development, and as well as around humanitarian crisis management by resilient supply chains. So for us, within the health, the first area of focus in health outcomes, we have four subsections that we included, and these are not prescriptive, but just give a highlight of in terms of examples of what we would want to see. So one is around the early warning and disease surveillance. So we would want tools that would predict the impact of relevant climate-related events, be it heat, flood, zoonotic migration. And also, because we're keen on gender, where possible, there are employment opportunities that would focus on rural women. We're also looking at gender, equity, diversity, and inclusion, because we've noted in terms of impact, climate health aggravates these disparities, and we would want to ensure that we address the gender disparities that are coming forth as related to the women, possibly under maternal, neonatal, and child health, as well as boosting of and access to food, healthcare, education, and economic well-being of society. We're also looking at tools that would help in addressing vulnerabilities, especially for women who undergo various forms of gender-based violence and post-traumatic stress disorders, which are climate change driven as a result of conflict. We're also looking at community health ecosystems to ensure that the service delivery and supply chains are resilient in responding to climate change effects. In the fourth subsection of this, we are looking at ensuring that this development of harmonized measurement and evaluation frameworks or systems that can be better incorporated to ensure that we are all conversant in terms of the various effects of climate change across the continent. The second area is around knowledge management and data integration. So we are cognizant that there are several siloed, fragmented databases available within the continent, and we would want to ensure that through community engagement, there's in-crowd sourcing of data collection that can be tracked and makes an impact at the local level. This could be in terms of the weather patterns that are looked at, and as well as the various detection of invasive vector species. We're also looking at researching relationship between climate change and various vector-borne diseases, such as to develop the early warning systems to prevent various epidemics and pandemics that are wanted. Integration of commercially available databases and local data into the early warning systems is also key for us, and we would also want to ensure that it is integrated with gender disaggregated data within it. So in terms of what we would give priority to within the proposals, we want to see proposals that have multi-sectorial coordination and collaboration. So preferably a system level intervention that can be catalytic and resonates in ensuring that it addresses the full aspects of climate change. We're also looking at a team that is led by a principal investigator who is based in Africa and working within an African institution. In terms of funding, we want an institution or an application that demonstrates 80% of the funding resources will be devoted into being used within sub-Saharan Africa investigative activities. The research work will prioritize various work ongoing with vulnerable communities to ensure that undeserved regions are given utmost resources. Projects that articulate how they will lead to impact or have a near to term impact solution that will be sustainable and scaled would also be given priority. We'd also want to see local engagement in terms of either local or regional engagement with various decision makers or adopters of the innovations, even in terms of policies as well. So much of that is also around the eligibility. So there are 7 areas of eligibility that we're keen on looking at. One is projects that are based in the low middle income countries, institutions. So we would want to see at least organizations that demonstrate the projects will be led by investigators from these regions. Additionally, they should have at least 50% women participating at all levels within the project. Global partners may be included. However, as mentioned, we have to demonstrate at least 80% of the funding is going to an investigator within the continent. Teams comprising of multiple countries or institutions from within Africa will be given preference, and their applications would over applicants from single institutions. This therefore encourages multiple country collaborations to be submitted. We're also keen on supporting projects that will be led by women and also have a focus on reaching women within the continent. We would also be keen to ensure that the project that you submit has a near-term impact and also highlights how this impact can be scaled even beyond the lifetime of the project. The fourth eligibility criteria is to ensure that you have a multiple geographical application, possibly also multiple when it comes to demographic as well within the application. We're also looking for engagement within local, regional communities, as already mentioned, and we're also looking at intersectoral collaboration or multi-sectorial collaboration and coordination. Lastly, we propose solutions that extend across multiple layers of organization, local, national, and regional. And the opposite is true, not to belabor the point, but if you are not going to engage with local communities, your application will not be considered. And if the various majority of the work will not be undertaken by local stakeholders or African researchers, it will not be considered. If you also do not have a near-to-term impact or scalability idea, the idea will not be considered. In terms of budget, we're looking at funding to a tune of 200,000 USD for each project, and we are looking at a term of 24 months, which is 2 years. So application budgets should be commensurate to the scope of work that is proposed. We have a budget guideline, which is also included on our webpage, and a link is included. And we would want to see a breakdown of various costs as highlighted, from personnel, travel, materials and consumables, equipment, subcontracts, research costs, and as well as institutional administrative costs and anything else that the African researcher would want to highlight. We've been seeing a lot of questions coming in within our Grant Challenges Africa email address, and we picked a few of the frequently asked questions that we would like to help answer during this session. So the first one that we saw was, who is eligible to apply? As we've seen, African investigators working in Africa and African investigators working in African-based domestic organizations, including non-profit organizations, international organizations, government agencies, research and academic institutions are eligible to apply. This call is open to both for-profit and not-for-profit organizations. In terms of our criteria for selection, I've already highlighted 7 areas that we'll be using to check for eligibility. However, there'll be 2 areas that will be evaluated in terms of, does the proposal address the problems described? within the health outcomes areas, as well as in knowledge management and data integration? Is there an innovative approach that the idea has been presented as well would also be evaluated? There's also a question that usually comes in terms of once a call closes, which is like this one will be closing on the 31st of January, can I still submit my idea, possibly even through email or any other platforms? The answer is no. We only accept ideas during an open round of a call, and our system automatically shuts down within the time frame indicated, which is 5 p.m. on 31st of January. So any proposals that would be submitted by emails or otherwise would not be reviewed. And you can see the current, you can see if a call is current, is open by visiting our website. Another question that we've seen is in terms of applicants who are possibly in multiple geographies, an applicant from Ethiopia or from Rwanda, and they would want to try apply through both platforms, GC Ethiopia or GC Rwanda. For us, we would want to encourage that you apply one proposal each applicant, and we would also ensure that you submit your best idea. The other question that we've seen is, what if I forget my password? Within our SFA grants management system, there's a I forgot my password tab or link that if you click, we will be able to then send you a temporary password that by email that you can sign in and log back into your account. And there's a link that we've also included there for frequently asked questions that you can use and see some of the answers that we've already included. As I come to a close, there are several available resources within our webpage that we would want to guide you to have a look at. These are various application questions, applicant instructions. Sorry. We also have budget guidelines, frequently asked questions. Sorry, rules and guidelines. And for more inquiries, there's an email there. Thank you.
Okay, good. So thanks again. We are going to be looking at some of the questions that have been shared. Okay, so we will be picking some as we go along, of course, depending on what the question is or whether it's a comment or whatever it is that we've received so far. So what is the total number of opportunity slots available for this call? At the moment, it's 7. Yeah. 7?
Yes.
7. Okay. Please clarify the difference between an investigator at an LMIC institution and a global partner.
Difference between an investigator at an LMIC institution and a global partner. A global partner would be an organization that is registered out of Africa, I would say so, either Europe or US. However, for low middle income country institutions, for us, those are either institutions based within a continent, this case being Africa. As already alluded, we are keen on applicants coming from Africa to be our potential applicants for this call.
Okay. And then there was a question around areas of interest. Are we only doing climate and health and knowledge integration?
Yes. So for Grand Challenges Africa, we are doing only 2 areas within our RFP. We are cognizant that within the joint application request for proposals, there were 5 areas highlighted. And like I mentioned, for us, we'll be looking at One area is health outcomes. The second one is knowledge management and data integration. For those applicants that will be keen on areas of nutrition, humanitarian crisis, and agriculture, would urge that you check our partners' website to see the areas of focus that they will be supporting around that.
And yes, indeed, we put in 8 eligibility criteria. You must not meet all of them, even though, I mean, it's important that you actually have a look at all of them and make sure that for your chances to be higher, that you're actually meeting all of them. There are some that we will use during the triage period. So, for example, the ones that we mentioned, I think in one of the slides around, African institution, 80% of funding going to an African fund institution, being registered on the continent. Those ones will be a must, but the others around areas of practice, those ones will be negotiated and of course prioritized according to the applications that we are going to be receiving. Okay, so referring to a question already asked earlier, is it possible to name institutions in the 251 partnerships and collaborations section? Meaning, can they name their partners and can they name their collaborations? That's it. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Within the application form. Okay, got it.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I just clarify something?
Yes, please.
So on the form, we've indicated in the rules and guidelines and the frequently asked questions, there are sections on the form. So on the project proposal side, you're not supposed to mention your institution or collaborators because we've given you sections where you can mention them. So under partnerships, you can mention all your collaborators. On the contact information, you have to give us your institution. So we are going to use this information when we are sending this to reviewers for purposes of transparency. We don't want them to know which institution you're coming from, so we will hide some of this information. So that's why we are saying on the section that says request information about your idea, please don't include personal identifiers. Thank you.
Okay, that's understood. Thanks, Angeline. You may not have seen Angeline, but we do have quite a bit of support here trying to answer these questions. Can 2 different applicants, investigators from the same NGO apply, or same institution, let me make it generalized, with 2 different proposals?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Yeah, it's possible. Yes, you can be 2 PIs, same department, same institution, 2 different proposals. It is possible. Is it possible to include tables and flowcharts in the application?
So we've seen applications where they copy paste an image within the application. However, you note that our application format is accepting only words. So we have word limits for each of those, and there are reasons because we would want you to be clear and direct in terms of exactly what it is that you are positioning. So at this point, we would not want you to add tables and figures within your application, except for the budget, which we have included a template that we would want them to put in the amounts and upload back.
And then there's a question from Kerry around agriculture as an area of focus. Simon, you're typing an answer, but it's important to say that for this particular call, we are looking at climate and health. Okay, it's super important to note that. that the focus of this call is climate and health, and the nexus in between climate and health. The face of applications, meaning are we accepting seed grants? Are we accepting transition to scale or later?
So all of this has seed level funding. Though we've indicated that we would want somebody who has a clearly well thought process with our identification of potential impact that would be sustainable and scalable. So that would be the scale at which I would say. So not too early or too seed discovery, but more seed with an idea of where the project is headed in the near term.
Okay. Yeah. Can the PI be a PhD student also working as a part-timer in academia? And I think it's an important question for the simple reason that this particular call is being run under the Grand Challenges Africa banner. And in Grand Challenges Africa, we believe that good ideas can come from anywhere. So it's not so much about how high up the ladder your qualifications and or experience place you. The main question that we are going to be asking when your application is being considered is, according to your experience, profession, qualifications, are you able to deliver the idea that you put in the application? So it's not so much about level, but I mean, even a master's student can apply, even a bachelor student can apply. The main question is, are you, for the idea that you proposed, are you able to demonstrate that you can deliver? What is the difference between applying with different partners, e.g. through the BMGF portal or directly through Science for Africa portal? And I think this is important to actually go through again, so that it's absolutely clear. It could become confusing for the simple reason that we are many partners that have put together this climate and health call. And at the same time, we do appreciate that some of our partners have also included other areas that may not be of interest to Science for Africa Foundation. So over to you, Doris, again, to just take us through which portals and then which areas of interest would Science for Africa Foundation like to see application.
Okay. So for like I mentioned, this is a global call by various Grand Challenges family initiatives. So we are usually managed or housed under the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they have a portal. So all the applications by the various initiatives are indicated within their web link that is already included in the presentation, all 5 of them, with the various requests for proposals for each of the applicants. For us, as Science for Africa, we host the Grand Challenges Africa initiative. And within this, you find that our area of focus, as indicated, is only in 2 areas: health outcomes and knowledge management and data integration. Within the other partner portals, they have indicated their various areas of focus, and we would urge that you have a look at each of those. We've also noted previously, because of our partner website, possibly even when it comes to the time frame for deadline, we would want to urge that you get information as pertains to our call for Grand Challenges Africa from our Science for Africa webpage. We've noted that previously you'd find our partners putting in a call that would essentially mean that the call runs up to midnight And the case is that we would close the call at 5 p.m. East African time. So kindly ensure that the accurate information is received from the portal of which you would be applying to. Thank you.
Thanks, Doris. Okay, if we push down, I think the next question is the project aiming to fight malnutrition in pregnant women? Is a project aiming to fight malnutrition in pregnant women eligible for this particular call? Unfortunately, we cannot be able to comment on specific projects that intend to apply. We encourage you to please have a look at the application document, the eligibility criteria, the areas of interest for the particular call, and then please reconsider your idea, have a look at it and see if it aligns. If it does, go ahead and apply. If it does not, then there'll always be another chance. The comment on agriculture keeps coming up. We will have a look at our documents again. But it is important to note that the focus for this call is climate and health and the related knowledge management of that particular area. So, geography of interest? Geography of interest.
Keeps coming back. So, geography of interest. Grand Challenges Africa will accept applications from all African researchers based in Africa. However, if you are an African researcher based in Ethiopia or based in Rwanda, we would want to urge you to apply to the local Grand Challenges national portals. There's a Grand Challenges Rwanda that is accepting applications at a local national level. So we would want to urge you to apply there. There's also a Grand Challenges Ethiopia within which Ethiopian researchers are encouraged to apply to. However, if you're not in Ethiopia or Rwanda, we would urge you to make your application to Grand Challenges Africa portal.
Okay. Then, so how much grant funding must be used strictly for research versus implementation based on the findings? May the funding be used just for implementation based on recently completed research? So the important thing to say here is that if you have a look at the interest areas of this particular call for proposals, climate and health, and you also have a look at the what we think and believe, or what the experts have identified as the challenge for climate and health that we really need to answer as citizens of the African continent, including the type of data that is actually needed at IPCC at the moment, then you actually realize that we are looking for projects that can be able to confirm the potential for them to reach scale in areas of climate mitigation and climate resilience. Even though in this particular case, the focus is on the climate and health nexus. In that case, what we are therefore saying is that it will be important for groups to have a look at, if it's a new idea and you've got no data behind the new idea, please state so. If it is an idea that has already been implemented before and there's a little bit of data behind it, it will be important to tell us. If it is an idea that you've already tested, it's actually ready for, at least according to the PI ready for transition to scale. It's still important to actually mention that, but please remember that whatever kind of proposal that comes up should be able to fit within the 24 months of the project.
Thank you for that, Moses. I note that we have about 15 minutes remaining with, for this question and answers, and we've been talking to one another. So I want to open up for anyone with a burning question and would want to ask the question directly to us. We'll continue engaging and trying to answer your questions within the chat box. However, if there's somebody with a question, if you can raise your hand, we'll unmute and then ask your question directly.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
My question is that I answered it. I asked it in the chat box, but I didn't get a convincing answer. Do we mention our names in the institution and in section 2, or do we not mention the name of the institution and collaborators? That is number one. Number two is references. Where do I put them? Because there's no space for them in your form. And thirdly, we are partners from Sudan, Ethiopia, and 2 from the USA. We're going to apply to the GC Africa portal because the PI is myself from Sudan. Is that okay? So sorry, 3 questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. But we'll stick to 1 question each. Angie, can you help?
Yeah, so I will again clarify that in the inbuilt form, we have several sections. There is the personal contact section, that is section 1, where you can put your institution. Then there is the partnership section, that is the last section, where you can put your collaborators. And then on the sections where there is the project application, that's where we are encouraging people not to put personal identifier information.
Is there a room within the application for references?
Simon?
Oh, no, we don't have a room for references because at this point, we don't require references to be input.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I had the question about partners. In your case, you would, since you're from South Sudan, you would be applying through the Grand Challenges Africa portal. We have Kwame. Kwame, if you can unmute and ask your question.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this webinar and thank you for the opportunity to ask my question. I also put the question in the chat box, but I didn't get any answer. It's about the budget templates. I tried filling the template, the Excel sheet, but it seems the formulas included in are not picking the information. So I don't know if there is any assistance that I can get. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Simon?
Oh, thank you. What we can be able to assist in this case and say directory. Therefore, what I can do is just share the mail that you can share your issue on. Then we can be able to address it as soon as possible.
So write to us, Grand Challenges Africa at scienceforafrica.foundation, and we'll be able to address the issue with the budget that you have. I hope that is okay. We have Samantha. You can unmute and ask your question.
Thanks for the great presentation. My question is around the allowable applications. Outside of research projects, will the team be considering like just the usual project, the project implementations that are not related to research?
Yes.
Yeah, so Samantha, thanks. And I think I'd also flagged your question as one of those areas that we needed to clarify. So we are looking for research projects. and not implementation projects. If the project can be able to do both, that's fine, but the target is actually research ideas according to the areas spelled out within the call for proposals document. I hope that answers your question, Samantha.
Okay, yeah, so thank you very much for your presentation. I want to ask a question related to if we need to specify within the application the specific role of the different organizations that will participate in the project. Do we need to specify? Of course, I believe we may need to. Should the names of the organizations be anonymous, or should we, specify their names and their contributions or the roles they will play? And again, should we also specify within the proposal the transdisciplinary nature of the proposal? So these are my questions.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll start with the last one. Yes, it would be good to see the transdisciplinary diversity of the team that would be applying, and it would be good to be indicated within the proposal. However, I want to also ask Angie if she can help answer you on the aspect of what kind of information can be put in for the partners. You had mentioned something about that already, but where do we put in the information about the partners, and what kind of information do you want included about the partners and collaborations?
So on the inbuilt form, there is a place where they click and they put the name of the partner and tell us what exactly they'll be doing on the project and where they're coming from, which country, and the type of partnership they'll be bringing on board. Yeah, it's pretty simple.
So it's within the inbuilt form?
Yes.
Okay. Harry, you can unmute and ask your question.
So we were interested in doing the grant on accelerating solutions for climate change's impact on agriculture. Can you tell us specifically which partners those would be? When I go to the grant, the Bill Gates Foundation site, and I click the link, it brings us directly to your application. So what other partner sites would we go to look at?
The way this call, allow me to call it an Uber call, is organized. Many institutions, many organizations came together to put together, this particular call. Different organizations have got different areas of interest. If you go to the Gates application, instead of clicking, so for example, our link will be on the Gates Foundation web page. So if you click on our link on the Gates Foundation web page, it will still bring you back to us. Okay. So if you're on the Gates Foundation web page, and depending on how the geographical eligibility criteria that would be there, please click on just browse and try and find out which other group could potentially house an agriculture call, because Science for Africa Foundation is focusing on climate and health. I may not be able to be in a position to tell you now, but if you drop us an email at
GCA Africa at
scienceforafrica.foundation, GCA Africa at scienceforafrica.foundation, we should be able to show you the exact link for agriculture if that's still of interest to you. But unfortunately, at the moment, I may not be able to tell you which specific link, for the simple reason that we still don't know, which geography you're coming from.
A lot of the questions coming in are requesting for this recording. Again, we would want to urge you to engage with our SFA webpage. We will put a link for this recording that you can have a look at and at your own comfort, and also review. Additionally, we'll also try to send it to the people that registered for this webinar. We'll send it to you via email as well. Please note that we also indicated that the deadline for this call is 31st of January. As Moses has indicated, ensure that you familiarize yourself with the various resources that are on our web page. As well, a lot of materials that we put out there that we would want you to ensure that you use to ensure that your application is successful. I still see a lot of questions on the recording. Yes, we will share the recording via email to those who have registered for this webinar, and we'll also put the link within our webpage for Science for Africa. So without further ado, we'll continue engaging within the chat box. If you still have more questions that you want us to answer, you can engage with us via email on the GC Africa email at Science for Africa that we kept on indicating, and we'll continue the discussions there. I still note there's a question, there's a hand raised by Kerry. Is it a question that you want to ask, or was it an old hand?
No, that was from the prior question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so actually I just wanted to ask the question about the budget. On the site, you can't put anything beyond $100,000. You can't put anything beyond that. So I have already submitted. So I'm asking, is there like a way I can edit it, or there's a limit per year that you can't go above?
So yes, it's possible for you to write to us at GC Africa and then request for a recall of your application, which will be sent back to you. And then you can do the edit and resubmit again as well. So just drop us an email and we'll facilitate that from the back end.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Ivan, I note you're back. If you can unmute and ask your question.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I'm following up on the areas of focus for GS Africa. And your presentation indicated that it's only under health outcomes, and then knowledge management, and that knowledge management and data integration of climate and health databases. However, when I looked in the call, the details of the call, I need, for example, under focus number 3, which is adaptation strategies for agriculture and economic development, there is also, countries from sub-Saharan Africa are eligible to apply. So can somebody therefore apply under that outcome under GC Africa?
So for GC Africa, we just have 2 areas of focus for our request for proposal that is indicated on our website. It does not have agriculture. We have health outcomes and we have knowledge management and data integration. However, I think there's a lot of interest that is coming in terms of which of our GC partners is doing a call for agriculture. And I think as we share the link for this recording, we would also try and indicate that as a useful resource so that we can direct you to the website of which partner would be doing areas of agriculture in this case.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Otherwise, thank you all for attending. We've come to the end of our discussion. Thanks for attending. If there are any questions, you've had the email where we could be able to interact. Looking forward to your applications. And best of luck to those of you who qualify for this funding. Thanks again, and bye for now.